You ever had one of those days where you're just trying to mind your own business and somebody decides it's their life's mission to ruin your peace? Yeah, well, I was that guy. Just a few months post-divorce, drowning in code and deadlines as a remote software engineer, desperate for a little quiet to keep from losing my mind. So what do? I set up a basic little tent right next to my own backyard lake. Nothing fancy, not an overnight camp out, just a cheap two-person tent, folding chair, a paperback, and a tiny camp stove for some Earl Grey. It was pure zen, you know what I mean? That's until Victoria, our HOA president, picture the type who marches like she's invading Normandy every time she's got a clipboard stormed across the grass like she was about to arrest me for treason. She didn't even say hello, just barked, "You can't camp on residential property." I looked up from my book, blinking like, seriously, it's my yard. But she was already on a roll ranting about fire hazards, zoning violations, throwing the word unauthorized around like confetti. And I swear for half a second she got all misty telling me about losing her first house because she didn't know the rules. Then poof, back to barking orders and snapping photos of my little camp stove. Next thing I know, she's dialing 911. Yep, really. Pacing back and forth, reporting illegal fires and camping equipment like I'm some criminal mastermind instead of a grown man reading The Hobbit by his own pond. 20 minutes later, two officers stroll up. Officer Martinez, no relation, thank God, and his partner see me sipping tea, glance at my setup, and I catch them fighting back laughter. "Sir, you need help with your library," one asks, and the other snickers. They're barely there 5 minutes before telling Victoria, "This is the third call this month." As they walk away, she's left sputtering about protecting the community. That was just the warm-up. The next morning, there's a certified letter in my mailbox, $250 fine for aesthetic violations. For reading in my backyard, no less. That's when something inside me snapped. For 6 months, I'd been trying to keep my head down, just get through the days, but this was personal. I said out loud, "All right, Victoria, you want to play game on." That evening, my neighbor Harold shows up. Retired engineer, keeps to himself, lost his son to one of Victoria's infractions last year. He brings a casserole in a cardboard box that's been gathering dust for decades. These are the original HOA documents, he says, and the way he hands them over, you'd think he was passing a family heirloom. Turns out his dad helped start the place before Victoria ever got her iron grip on the neighborhood. "There's stuff in here Victoria really doesn't want you to see. I can't use it, but maybe you can." So the next HOA meeting rolls around, Victoria perched behind her folding table like she's presiding over the Supreme Court, her gavel ready. There's maybe 15 residents crammed into folding chairs. No one wants to be there. Victoria calls me up like I'm on trial runs through her list of made-up crimes, and every time I try to defend myself, she bangs that gavel and drowns me out. But then, out of nowhere, Janet Patterson, the quiet board member, actually speaks up. "Victoria, maybe this punishment doesn't fit the crime." The man was reading a book in his yard. For a second, Victoria's mask slips and she barks back. You know what happens when people stop following the rules? Property values crash. People lose their homes. You could feel the room go dead. This wasn't about tents or tea, it was about her fear of chaos. But Victoria still bulldozes the vote, 3-2 against me. That night, Harold finds me again and says, "Pay special attention to the property surveys from '87. My dad always said there was something off about the way these roads were handled. Now I'm curious. I spend the whole night digging through decades-old papers with a pot of coffee, and the focus I usually save for debugging nightmare code. And I find it a subdivision plat map from 1987, private road ownership transfer pending, not under city jurisdiction. Suddenly it hits me. Morning Dew Lane, the only road in and out, was never actually deeded to the city. For 35 years, everyone just assumed it was public, but legally it's been in limbo this whole time. I call a real estate attorney, Sarah, send her the docs. And after a few moments of silence, she says, "Marcus, you could own the road. If you move fast, nobody can stop you." And as she talks, it all comes together. Survey crews, developers sniffing around the lakefront, the HOA trying to keep things under wraps. If I buy the road, every single house, including Victoria's, would need my permission just to get home. You ever see poetic justice served cold? Because that's exactly what was about to happen. But Victoria, she senses something. She starts digging through my records, calling her lawyer. I decide to poke the bear. I buy 3 of the ugliest pink flamingo lawn ornaments and plant them front and center. It works. She's at my door in an hour, vibrating with fury. These are inappropriate. I just smile. Unless you've got a rule against pink flamingos, I think we're good. That night, Harold calls, worried he's overheard Victoria plotting legal moves, mentioning my name and disruption. Sure enough, the next day the neighborhood turns icy. People avoid me, whispers follow me, and I see Victoria orchestrating the whole social freeze-out. Then she calls an emergency board meeting, her nuclear option. Persistent violations and community disruption by a repeat offender. She proposes a lien on my house for $3, $847, just enough to hurt. Not enough to look like pure revenge. They vote 3-2 again. I'm trapped. With a lien I can't refinance, can't sell, can't use my house for collateral. She thinks she's checkmated me. For the first time, I almost give in. I sit by my lake in the dark thinking maybe it's easier to just give up, tear down the tent, get rid of the flamingos, go back to being invisible. But Harold shows up, pours us both a bourbon, and says her move was desperate. She's scared. And he's right, the overreach has even her supporters on edge. Sarah, my attorney, works through the night and comes back with fire in her eyes. The HOA overstepped. We demand the lien be removed or we sue the board members personally. The next emergency board meeting is different. Janet's built a coalition. We're supposed to be neighbors, not dictators, she says. The room is tense, but this time the vote flips 3-2 to remove the lien. Victoria looks like she's about to implode. And that's when I get Sarah's call. The paperwork's done, and as of 4:47 p.m. on a Friday, I am the legal owner of Morning Dew Lane. I walk into Saturday's community cleanup day like nothing happened. Victoria, with her bullhorn, starts directing traffic. I stroll up, folder in hand, and announce to everyone, as of yesterday, I own the road you're all standing on. Silence. Victoria tries to play it cool, but her hand's shaking as she dials 911 again. The same 2 officers show up, check my paperwork, and tell everyone to leave my property. Victoria's cleanup event becomes her public humiliation. Residents scatter. Some are angry, some relieved. Janet just shakes her head, grinning. Did you plan this? I just shrug. Sometimes the best revenge is being right at the most inconvenient time. The next hour, a pickup pulls up, and Harold and I start setting up concrete barriers across the lane. Official private property, no trespassing signs and all. That afternoon, people returning from errands are met with a barricade. Cars back up, confusion reigns, and Victoria stands at the edge, clipboard drooping, watching her control evaporate. That night, Victoria calls me. This is insane, Marcus. You can't just block the road. I keep it polite but firm. Actually, I can. And I have. The next week, I install a wrought iron security gate, complete with cameras and an intercom. Now, every day at 6:15 p.m., Victoria pulls up, sits in her car, and waits for me to buzz her through. One Thursday, she cracks. Through the intercom, her voice breaks. I just wanted to protect everyone. After I lost my house, I thought if I controlled everything, I could keep everyone safe. For a moment, I feel something like sympathy. She's not just power hungry, she's wounded. You can come through, Victoria. But tomorrow we talk about how this neighborhood really works from now on. Next morning, Sarah calls. Sunrise Resort Development wants to build a $50 million eco-resort on the lakefront, and Morning Dew Lane is their only access. Their offer $2.5 million with guaranteed access for all residents. I almost spill my coffee. I sign the paperwork sitting in my tent, marveling at how a $5,000 legal gamble just changed my life. Victoria brings me an apple pie as a peace offering, thanks me for not locking her out, and even admits she forgot what it meant to be part of a community. 6 months later, Victoria is no longer HOA president. Harold runs things fair and square. Jake finally moves out, property values soar, and my tent sits by the lake with a tiny plaque. Sometimes the smallest act of defiance leads to the biggest change. Who knew a cup of tea and a paperback could start a revolution? So let's hear it. Was I right to fight back, or did I go too far? Is justice about rules or knowing when to break them? Drop your thoughts below. And if you've ever tangled with an HOA, I want to hear your story.